Hey guys, welcome back to nationalhsfb.com. I'm your host, Larry Godwin, along with my counterpart, Joe Maimone from Prep Gridiron Logistics. On the screen tonight, we have joining us from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, the head coach of the prominent, I'm going to use that word, I'm going to feature that word, right, Joe? This is a very prominent program. Everyone recognizes the St. Thomas Aquinas Raiders. It's basically a household name in the world of high school football. And leading the Raiders is the head man himself, Coach Roger Harriott. Coach, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Joe and Larry. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Joe, why don't you lead us off with your first question for tonight?
Hey, Coach, great to have you. I wore my special Florida shirt on your behalf, okay, to represent the state.
I see that. Go Noles.
That's right. And as we were talking earlier, I was down at Florida State for 2 years. From 90 to 92, I was a grad assistant. And two of the players on FSU team that I remember strongly for all the right reasons were two Aquinas alums, Richie Andrews and Sterling Palmer. So I'm glad that the tradition is as strong as it's ever been, even since their days, which is great to see.
Yeah, they're decorated players. We're proud to have it. We're proud to have them as alum.
Hey, so Coach, we're real excited. Prep Gridiron Logistics, anyway, we were part of the event organizers that are putting that Broward versus the USA event together in late August. It's 14 teams, 7 games, 4 venues over 3 days. And the highlight's going to be your game on Saturday at St. Joe's Prep. You have a lot of great players on this year's roster. From what I gather and what I researched, a minimum of 16 players that are rated 3-star or higher. Tell us, when we're watching that game against St. Joe's Prep, who should we keep our eyes and ears out for on your team? What prominent players?
I mean, we're pretty balanced, in all 3 phases. I don't really, like to identify one particular player because we feel like from a brotherhood standpoint, we collectively have, a very important role with regards to our game plan. So from the offensive side, there's still a battle going on at the quarterback spot between Hezekiah Harris and Jake Lewin, and we'll see who comes out on top. That they're both competing and also doing a great job of leading. On the offensive line, we have two returners in Brody Sobolinski and Ryan Mitkow. Brody's committed to Army and Ryan's committed to Boston College. And we have a few young guys that are coming up that should do some pretty significant things for us. And we have a player returning back to St. Thomas, Harrison Green, who should give us some experience and leadership as well. At the running back spot, we have a whole stable of legitimate stable of 5 running backs. So they're all really good players. We have Jamari Sands, and he does a great job of being very versatile, not only as a running back, but he also plays receiver and returner. We have Xavier Terrell, who's a home run guy. It's very extremely explosive, quick twitch. Finds a way through very small areas and explosive. You have Jordan Clemens, who runs with a tremendous amount of power. Also has a great low center of gravity, and Jordan Lau, who's like the complete back. He's about 6 foot. He's just over 200 pounds. He's only a junior, and he can do a variety of things. And then you have my nephew Josh Harriott, who is also a pretty physical back and can run through your soul on contact. So we're excited about our backfield. We're also excited about our tight end in Takai Kirby. That's Terry Kirby's son. He's committed to Virginia, so we're looking for him to have a big year. He can do a number of things. He's a big, versatile, athletic tight end. He can play H-back. He can play in the backfield. He can play a slot end. He can play out wide. So we're looking forward to seeing him do some great things. And then our wide receivers are extremely electric. They're your typical playmakers, Chance Robinson and James Madison, and they're led by Colorado commit Isaiah Harge, and Jalen Benelli is doing a great job of leading our team. And then we have a few impact players that should make some noise for us with Chris Greer's son, Jackson Greer, who just recently committed to Boise State. So we have a number of guys that can do some things. The environment is extremely healthy and competitive on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, we pride ourselves on having a strong defensive line. Led by Jason Hammond and Justin Botford at the defensive tackle spot, and then we have a hybrid player, Keyshawn Johnson, that does a great job, and he can play inside and out. And our Oregon State commit, Zakai Saez. Jason Hammond's also committed to Iowa State. So those guys up front, they do a great job of holding it down. You also have Kamari Frederick, who just came over to us from Deerfield. So he's trying to get acclimated and learn our structure. At the linebacker spot is also pretty competitive. We have Rashad Henry and Javont Brown. Javont Brown and Rashad are two prominent commits, big athletic linebackers, and we have our young Nicholas Rodriguez, who has an extremely bright future at the linebacker spot. And I would say the leader of that group is Justin Coles, who's a Navy commit. So those guys do a great job of holding it down and keeping that front seven pretty organized. And then the back end, you got our two Penn State commits, King Mack and Conrad Hussey. Obviously, extremely athletic players, can play nickel, safety, or corner. And then you have Kimari Robinson, who's a Duke commit. And then we have a number of guys battling for that other corner spot. You have Ryan Mack. You have Jaden Bell. You have Amari Lanier. You have a number of guys. Aurelius Pugh, AP. He can play corner or safety. So we have a number of guys that can do some good things, and we also have a young player in Samaj Jackson, who's a pretty fierce player. And then out of that young group, everyone's pretty excited about a young man named Earl Culp. So he's also a versatile player. He can do a number of things. So we're excited about what's going on in the defensive backfield as well. So on the third phase of the game, well, probably the most important one to us with regards to field strategy, and just flipping the field and put in our offense and defense in the most advantageous position to perform and to execute our special teams. We have a great long snapper. We're fortunate to highlight in Dominic Diaz, who's starting to get some national attention, and a few kickers. Michael Kern, he's a young kicker, and Nick Romero battling out for the field goal, plays kicking spots, and Kern is also a national punter. So we have a lot to work with here. Don't ever want to leave out our coaches. Our coaches are doing a great job. We're fortunate to have some new guys that we just recently added to our staff not too long ago. One that a couple names you guys would recognize: Earl Little. He's a co-defensive coordinator, and we have some guys that played for me when I was at university school. That's returned to the high school ranks. One being Daniel Braverman. I don't know if you guys remember him. Played for U School, played for Western Michigan, and got drafted by the Bears. Played for Kansas City, and now he's decided to come back and share his talents with the high school rank. So there's a few coaches that we're excited about and looking forward to having another productive season.
Hey, Coach.
Holy moly, Joe.
Larry, this is the first, out of all the interviews we've ever had, this is the first coach that mentioned the importance of and named his kicker and punters.
And long snapper.
Well, to be fair, I think Coach Harriott just named his entire roster.
Not even close.
Larry. We have over 100 guys on the roster, and from even from the sideline to the field, they all feel like they have a point of relevance. We make a huge emphasis. You don't hear a whole lot of coaches talk about the fourth phase of the game. We have a fourth phase of the game, and that's the sideline. So we have sideline captains, and we have guys that are in charge of keeping our momentum going even when the chips are down a little bit. So we take a lot of pride in developing different strategies with regards to executing in football.
Coach, let me follow up on something you just said there. Everything that you just said there strikes me as you appear to be a very detail-oriented man. Am I off base? Am I?
I try to be, Larry.
Okay, that's what it sounds like. You're very detail-oriented. When you're talking about, a lot of coaches talk a good game about three phases of the game, that at the end they'll mention the importance of the kicking game. But like Joe was talking about, you might be the first coach that's actually mentioned his kickers by name, not just one, but the guys that are battling for the job. And then to talk about your sideline captains as a fourth phase, that's just tremendous detail-oriented coaching there. Is that something you learned at the college ranks, or has that always been with you?
I learned a lot. I was assistant head coach for Charlie Partridge, and I learned a tremendous amount from him. Really just more so philosophical things like paying your debt and move on, and getting through adversity with motivation. I've always, ever since I started coaching, I've always thought that it was important to manage the logistical aspect of the game. Whether it was point differential or time clock. I've always had a time clock coordinator, and I've always had a game manager.
Wow.
I put a huge emphasis on that aspect of the game, and we've won a number of games that way. My time clock coordinator and point game manager is a guy named Mike Kahn. He's mathematically gifted. He's a director. He's a regional director for Merrill Lynch. So all he knows is numbers. And as as we know that, like, not just football and anything else in life, there's equations in everything you do, whether it's your family and making decisions or calculating the business deals. You got to really play chess, not checkers.
Yeah.
And there are a number of people that are dependent on you to make appropriate decisions, and it's all predicated on the equations and calculations you use at that particular time. So that's kind of where I realized the importance of that type of aspect of the game, and then making sure that we're facilitating all the needs in every component of the game, whether it's on the field or off the field. I'm really more focused on our personal development off the field. At St. Thomas, I call it the blessed expectation to win championships. I think it's something that's kind of required of us as we line up. But it's not the priority for us. The priority for us is to help our players realize that they're going through this process and representing not only themselves, but more importantly, God and their family to the best of their ability in order to become a champion in their life. Because at some point, football is going to have to come to an end, but you got to still continue to live your life as a champion, whether it's a husband or a father or a community leader or just a family member and friend. You got to make sure you continue to win.
Man, that's outstanding. Joe, what's next, man?
Coach, I wanted you to educate us. We've been reading a lot about down in Florida how your governing body set up new classes, metro and suburban. Can you, as quick as you can, to a bunch of guys who don't live in Florida, how's that going to affect you, and what are your thoughts on it?
It doesn't impact us in one way, shape, or another, because it's really it's really a separation with regards to suburban or rural areas and metro, or you can call them urban areas, uh, where there's an imbalance in population, and I feel like that's the appropriate way to even out the playing field. We in South Florida, we've won a number of championships over the past within this past decade. So I think they started feeling like their things weren't as even as it should be. But the reality is this, Larry and Joe. There's no place in the world, not just the United States. There's no place in the world, and it shows in the NFL, like South Florida. It's a culture here. Certain areas and regions, they take a lot of pride in certain things. Like on the West Coast, they take a lot of pride in entertainment. The entertainment industry is Hollywood, and that's kind of a culture. It's a way of life. Well, and and maybe in the Northeast, you see a huge influence within politics. From the Virginias up. In South Florida, it's football. It really is. It's athletics, and particularly football kind of is the catalyst. And it's a way of life from youth league, from elementary school, all the way up. We find real value in it. And when I tell people, I try to help them understand. The best analogy I can kind of give to them is, most other organizations around the United States, they play football. They play football. Whether, and I don't go so far to insult them and say, that's recreational ball. It's not. It's still very competitive. But in South Florida, we live football. It's a way of life. It's how we actually breathe. At St. Thomas, we just had a youth league event, and they were preseason classic games. Okay, from elementary school ages to the middle school ages. All right. And there had to be over 20,000 people circulating throughout the day. And there had to be, at one point, there had to be anywhere from 8 to 10,000 people on the campus. This is for these are for youth league kids. So when we tell you that we take it very serious down here, it's it's a practical thing. When we talk about St. Thomas being one of the more prominent, as you guys said, or to us, we feel like we're the best high school football organization in the world. We don't say it out of arrogance. We say it because it's proven through how many players we have in Division I football and who matriculates on to the NFL. We have the most players in the NFL. And there's football all over the world. So when people say, "Oh, Coach Harriott talking about being the best high school football program in the world," I played for St. Thomas. Coach Smith coached for decades and established something special there. God has His hand on this program, so we're not saying it to try to belittle anybody else. But the fact of the matter is that we have a number of guys that we were able to place in the National Football League, and it's been a tremendous blessing for us. And there's football everywhere. There's football now. My brother and I, Jerome and Greg, we started football in Jamaica. So you have high school football in Jamaica. You have high school football, in Puerto Rico and throughout the Western Hemisphere. On the eastern side, you have Germany that has football. You have China that has high school football. Obviously, on this western side, you have Canada that has football. So when we say that, South Florida is the most prominent and it's the mecca of football, I think it's the truth.
Hey, Larry, does this remind you when we interviewed Coach? We interviewed Jube Joseph, the new coach at Miami Central.
Reminds me a lot of him.
Almost exactly the same about how important the sport is to the kids from literally third grade up, even kindergarten up. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We do a good job. We do a good job of facilitating, and we have the lowest stipends in the country. Go figure.
Exactly.
So that just goes to show you, for us, it's not about the money, right?
Yeah. Coach, when you were describing football in South Florida, if I were closing my eyes and listening to you, Joe, he would have reminded me of a South Georgia coach.
Yeah.
Coach, South Florida and South Georgia must be very, very similar in three facets: faith, family, and football.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I'm going to put up an excerpt of an article that I found,
Okay.
and I'm going to show you this quote. Can you see that?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow it up a little bit. Well,
Okay.
I'll read it out to you.
Okay.
So one quote here, he says, more important than wins and losses for Harriott, who recently joined the Friday Night Football Coaches podcast, is the way he kind of cut off, is the way in which his program helps players become productive citizens and champion husbands, fathers, and family men. And here's a quote attributed to you. He says, we have a standard of family, faith, tradition, excellence that we represent here. Our guys do a great job. We provide different opportunities to create an environment of love, respect, and admiration. As a result, they move on and do some pretty extraordinary things in life.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, just from the first few minutes that we've spent with you this evening, it seems like that theme runs deep in your DNA, that faith, family, and football. And let me ask you something about the faith and family part. Is that something that you purposely instill into your student athletes, or is that just something part of your character that just comes out naturally? Or how does that process work? It sounds like you are very purposeful in teaching your kids that.
Yeah, I've always been faith devoted, but thanks to my parents. My mom has a strong, faith base, and she inspired me to serve the Lord at a very young age. Obviously, being affiliated with St. Thomas, going to school there, it's a faith-based organization. I realized the value in having a personal relationship with the Lord, and I think that that's applicable to anything that you do in your life with regards to family and establishing an interpersonal relationship with others, and realizing the value of interdependence. I just believe that the greatest resource that we have on this earth, that God created, was us, our humans. We unfortunately don't treat each other right, but I think as we evolve, we will. Right now, I think we're a little consumed by the advancements of technology, which is a great resource, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own based on different algorithms. But I think we're sophisticated enough to realize that we're not heading in the right direction, and some of these things we have become complicit, and it's impacted our society in a negative way. So we're a little complacent right now, but I think we are competitive creatures, and we ultimately mean well. I'm optimistic, so I really believe that. So the faith in the family part for me is extremely important. I think we are the greatest resource that God created on this earth, and I think we need each other to reach a certain level of potential. I think it's really difficult to do things independently or individually. I think once we realize our strengths and weaknesses, if those of us that can accept the fact that we have weaknesses, can really connect in an interpersonal way. And once we develop a meaningful or intimate relationship, I can value your strengths, and I can be vulnerable and expose myself, and realize that your strengths are going to probably complement my weaknesses, and my strengths should complement your weaknesses. Together, we can do something greater. So that's where that kind of comes from.
Coach, I can see why God made you a head coach. Kids need you. They really do.
I appreciate it.
Hey, Larry, I follow him on Twitter, and every day I wait for his. He puts out a tweet every day. When you think it's of head football coaches, you think of, let's go get them, outwork them all, lift, violence. His are all about golden rules, trust, making memories. I love waiting for that tweet to come out every day.
You're putting pressure on me now, man.
No, I coach.
Shoot, I'm gonna have to check him out tomorrow.
I want you to know, people are listening, and they're admiring what you're doing. There's a reason this school has won, 13 state championships in the last 20 years, and a couple of national championships too. You're doing all the right things.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to come out here and share and learn.
All right, Coach, let's get to the nitty gritty now. You know, I specialize in putting together the best out-of-state games possible, okay? Obviously, St. Thomas Aquinas has a long history of playing the best all over America.
Yep.
There's only 2 teams in the world that can say that they beat St. John Bosco and St. Francis. There's only 2 teams that can say that.
Mm-hmm.
It's St. Thomas Aquinas and Mater Dei. The number one game that all our posters want to always talk about, if they had a magic wand and they could wave it and have a game played in 2023 or beyond, would be Mater Dei or St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah.
Are you open to something like that? Will you play anybody?
I think, yeah, we'll play anyone. I think that if COVID taught us anything, is not take another moment for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Not another moment in life for granted. And if you have an opportunity to do something extraordinary and bring people together, why not? And I think that would have been a tremendous game. Unfortunately, they got some legal issues that they're dealing with right now. That was a game that I thought would have been, one for, at this point, one for us to pull together. But it just didn't work out at this point. And I like I said, I have a strong faith. I believe that things happen for a specific reason. I'm not here to do the Lord's job. I'm just here to do his work. I'm here to serve. And if that opportunity ever presents itself within our lifetime, then great.
Right.
If not, then hopefully somebody, another opportunity will pick itself up. But they're a tremendous organization. They've done a great job. It would be a tremendous matchup. Just wait for that opportunity to present itself. Unfortunately, this is not the time. They have more important things that they have to resolve at this time, and our prayers are with their organization.
Hey, Coach, out of all the great interstate matchups you've ever played, and there's so many of them, give me 1 or 2 that stick out in your mind. These out-of-state games, your best memories.
Oh man.
I would think St. John Bosco had to be one, right? I mean, that was a tremendous game.
Yeah, that was a battle. They came down in very difficult weather elements, and they competed their butt off and played extremely hard. Another one was when we played Gorman. That game went into multiple overtimes. We didn't leave Vegas with the victory, but it continued to elevate high school football from a national standpoint. I was really impressed with the St. Francis and Mater Dei game. I think that was in 2019. I'm not sure.
Yep. Yours truly put that together. That was the first year of the Trinity League versus the America event that we hold every year.
Yeah, that was a tremendous game.
That was Bryce Young's coming out party.
Yeah. So you've done a good job of facilitating, some real prominent matchups. So thank you.
As the number one promoter of high school football games, you're always going to be at the top of my list, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Joe, you know why Coach Harriott's going to be one of the 2 guys at the top of my list now, right? So I've got Coach Harriott and Trent Dilfer running neck and neck for the coaches that have the best quotes.
Yeah. Trent has some good ones, huh?
He's got some good ones. I've been taking notes of what you've been saying too, Coach.
And both coaches are very faith-based.
That's right.
Very faith-based.
Yeah. Thank you.
So you were talking about how important football is in South Florida. All over the state of Florida, it seems like it's important. But, the state of Florida has been on the radar for the last year or so, not just for football, but the way that what's the organization called, Joe? FHSA?
FHSAA.
Yeah, they recently adopted a new reclassification system, right? City versus rural, where basically the South Florida.
Well, not really city versus rural. They have their own.
Metro versus rural.
Well, no, you're talking about suburban and metro, right?
Yeah, suburban and metro. That's right.
We don't. They have their own state championship, and we have our own. So it's 4M down to 1M, and then 4S down to 1S, and we can play each other, in a regular season, but once we get into the playoffs, then we have our own league.
Does that change anything for you, or is it basically business as usual?
For us, it's business as usual because both leagues have very competitive programs. You know, I mean, obviously the 4M side is a variety of metro type teams. I can't think of any off the top of my head other than what's in our area. But on the 4S side, you still have Lakeland and Cocoa and Venice and teams like that. So I think it'll still be competitive at the end of the day.
Hey, Coach, question. We talked about how many D1 athletes you put into college, as well as NFL draft picks. I know Max Preps, I think, put out back in April, our buddy Zach Poff. The last 10 years, Aquinas has churned out 18 NFL draft picks. So my question is, with so many NFL draft picks, do they come back? Do they help you? Are they part of the community? Do they come and speak to the players?
They do.
Tell us more about that and the brotherhood there.
They do. I mean, I like to describe ourselves. It's hard to because it's a special organization. I like to describe it as almost like a fraternity, but you don't have to pay dues or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's really more of an organic brotherhood. You know, Coach George Smith and his staff did a tremendous job of establishing that strong player bond and tradition that we're all blessed to be a part of. So, you know, our NFL guys, they come back, they talk to players, they run camps. Wyatt Ray, who was just recently in this past Super Bowl, defensive end for Denver. He's actually with Jacksonville Jaguars now, I believe. But he just had a camp for the community. Asante Samuel runs community events. You know, I see Elijah Moore often. He comes out and trains with another one of our alum that I don't know if people know, Tevin Allen. He runs Gold Feet Global. He has a number of NFL players that he's trained. So, I mean, all these guys are on campus. They come back. They talk to our players. Tony, I don't know if you guys remember Tony Sands, Tuxedo Tony with Kent. He played for Kansas, and then he played in the CFL. You know, he held the record for most carries and yards for a while. You know, I think he has 50-something carries and 396 yards, something like that. So all these guys are still in the area. They come home. They work out at our facility. They bring their teammates to our facility. They bring their organizations, and it's just a very, very fortunate position that we're in, and we don't take it for granted at all. If anything, we're extremely grateful.
Coach, we talked about earlier in the interview where we established where you came from the college ranks. You were an assistant at FAU. They're a prominent, I guess, a middle tier type of program, if I could use that term, at the college ranks. You know, their brand is growing.
Group of five, yeah.
That's right. So their brand is growing. So if you'd have stuck with them, obviously, in hindsight, you're a very, very talented head coach. If you'd have stayed at the college ranks, I think I would be safe to assume that you would be a coordinator, if not a head coach by now at a college program. So why did you decide to take a step, not, I guess, for lack of a better word, take a step back and get back into the high school game versus staying at the college level?
Well, first of all, I appreciate your comments. That admiration is flattering. You know, I was supposed to, in 2010, I was supposed to be with Doug Marrone at Syracuse, but my daughters were very young at the time, and I saw major value in taking them to school and reading different Bible verses with them and doing devotionals and talking about how those things are applicable to their actual life. At that time, obviously, their school day. They were in elementary school, and I realized the demand it was gonna and strain it was gonna put on my family, and it was a great opportunity because my wife is from New Hampshire, so she would have been closer to her family. So it was a difficult decision, but I told my wife at the time that I didn't get married to you to watch you raise these kids on your own.
Mm.
And as much as I love college football, it just wasn't the right timing. At that time, I was younger, so I was like, you know what, I just jeopardized my career. If I ever wanted to be a head coach or an NFL coach or a college coach, I probably blew it. But it didn't. It made people, want me to be a part of their program more. I guess, or just from an integrity standpoint. Fast forward to 2014, one of my closer friends in the football industry, he got the head coaching job. Charlie Partridge at FAU. He asked me to join him. We did a great job right off the bat. Recruiting guys. That first recruiting cycle from December, when I was hired in late December through February. This is before they had the December signing. I was I guess one of the first Conference USA recruiters of the year within just few months. Just being there, just because I knew so many kids that were prominent players, and I was able to convince them to commit to us or sign with us. And then the next recruit, we didn't do great that year because you're taking over a culture. The next recruiting cycle, I was a recruiter of the year again. But just being devoted and obedient, number one to God and devoted to my family. It was really early mornings and it was really late nights. I didn't get a chance to spend a whole lot of time with them. And I just believe as a father, it's important to be there to partner with your wife and raise your kids. And through a lot of prayer, it was difficult. My father got sick at the time. He contracted colon cancer, and I had a friend that's the CEO of the University of Miami. So we brought him up here from Jamaica. I'm actually from Jamaica, by the way, guys. I grew up in South Florida.
Yep.
So then at the same time, my daughter was a sophomore in high school, and she was going through her own recruiting process. She played for a pretty prominent travel league and was asked to play for the Jamaican national team. And then she committed to, I removed myself from college to take care of my father and to take care of her on the road for her recruiting process. I signed on with a travel company and became their vice president, a sports travel company. And at that time, St. Thomas was transitioning from Rocco Casulo. So they asked me if I would, consider taking the job. And at that time, I already accepted a job, so I didn't take it. Long nights with Coach Schmidt, talking it over, realizing, that, my life is in really ministering, because that's how I see football. I really see football as a ministry, and it's a team of young men and also women who are involved. From a staffing standpoint, you have an opportunity to impact their life in a positive way. So that's where I kind of stay focused on. I feel like I'm doing God's work here at the high school level at this time. I was offered a number of jobs. One from my good friend Derek Mason when he was at Vanderbilt, and my daughter ended up going to Vanderbilt. So it was, there's been a number of times where I've been offered opportunities to work at the college level. But through some prayer and fasting and just, connecting with my wife and my family, is just, when you leave it in God's hands, he makes these decisions easy for you when you ask him for help. So I know God. I know it's never really. It's not as simple as abracadabra with the Lord.
Right.
But I do know one thing: the Lord is not complicated, and when you put your faith in Him, He makes it really clear what you should be doing. And I don't worship money; I worship the Lord. So that's where I am.
Coach, I
Amen.
love that quote. The Lord is not complicated. I'm telling you, man, you and Trent Dilfer, greatest quotes in the world.
Amen. Hey, Coach, here's one for you, and I know it's going to be tough. Do your best. I know you don't want to alienate anybody, but in your history of coaching and being around St. Thomas Aquinas as a player, coach, give me your top 3 to 5, in your opinion, best players to ever come out of there. I'm just talking football. Just talking football.
Man, he's gonna rattle off 2 rosters worth now,
Come
Joe.
on, man. Come on, man. So the best to come out of St. Thomas, and not that I've coached, just in general.
Brian Piccolo.
Yeah. So you just in general.
I mean, as a man, as a football player, as a human being, it doesn't have to be football.
There's been some, man. There's been some
so
tremendous. There's been. I'm glad. I like that question. I do. I as you know, I don't like to isolate people, but there are individuals and there are teams. Without these individuals, St. Thomas wouldn't be what it is. Obviously, coaching goes a long way because we do more parenting. At St. Thomas, we actually do more parenting than we do coaching. So if any coaches are out there listening, there's no secrets to what we're doing. If I can give you any advice, parent before you do anything else. If you parent, they know you care, they know you love them, and then they'll execute whatever plays you put before them and they want to disappoint. As from a player standpoint, there's a number of them who's been staples to why St. Thomas is what it is today. I mean, you got, obviously you said Brian Piccolo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you have I don't know if you remember Stefan Humphries.
Mm-hmm.
Stefan Humphries played for the Bears and didn't want to get his hands all mangled up. And now he's one of the top surgeons in the country.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Michigan. Yep. Tremendous football player, tremendous person. Our academic award is actually named after him. Our courage and sacrifice award is actually named after Brian Piccolo. Our playmaker award, you know who that is. Say his name. Say his name, the playmaker. Who's the playmaker?
Who's the playmaker?
Come on, guys. Dallas Cowboys, University of Miami, wide receiver.
Oh, Michael Irvin.
There you go.
Michael Irvin, yeah.
Michael Irvin.
How could we forget Michael Irvin?
I don't know. But
Irvin.
with guys like Irvin, we just talked about Tony Sands.
I'm a Florida State guy. I had a hard time remembering that one.
Yeah. Remember John Kangemi, guys, he's a quarterback. There's a number of guys. You got Twan Russell, who played for the University of Miami and went on and had a fabulous career in the NFL.
Now he's your AD.
Now he's our AD.
Mm-hmm.
We had a number of guys. You had Daryl Porter, you had Keith, a tremendous player named Keith Wilkerson, who was probably one of the top 5 running backs to come out of Florida. He was up there with Eddie George at Ohio State, and as a freshman was making a run for the starting job, and had some family situations and had to return home. You have another guy on that 92 team was full of guys that was the first state championship team. The 91 team with Twan Russell was the first team to make it to the state championship. There were some great leaders on that 92 team. You had a guy named Terry Smith, aka Dink. He was a linebacker, a tremendous scholar athlete, tremendous wrestler, and people just put their heart and soul into the game, and they're extremely team oriented. They were team oriented. They weren't me guys. They were we guys. The more we guys you have around you, the probability of you winning that particular play and the actual game substantially increases. So I can go on and on. You got James White. You got James White. You got Gino Bernard. You got Gino.
I told you, Joe.
You got Gino Atkins.
Let's hear it.
There's a lot of guys, man. That but the first few guys that I talked about these were the guys who were the foundation. Without that foundation, there isn't,
right.
a James White or an Elijah Moore or Nick and Joey Bosa.
Mm-hmm.
There just isn't. I mean, Coach Smith did a good job of assembling some tremendous personalities with regards to coaches that were able to inspire players to take pride in who we are. I mean, one of our mantras is pride on A, and you hear the whole team say STA pride.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see throughout social media, you go, we go, and these simple things that some people don't necessarily think about from a humanistic standpoint, but it has tremendous meaning, especially when you're devoted to it, totally invested emotionally in something, and you have total trust in your brothers. That's a difficult force to defeat.
Whew. That was a great answer. That was a great answer. Joe, what would be one of our coaching interviews without me bringing this up? Coach, being from a South Georgia guy, you see, I'm a Lowndes guy, the Viking Nation right here. I'm a Lowndes guy, Lowndes football.
I see.
So over the last few years, we've played teams like Miami Northwestern. This coming up season, we're scheduled, with Joe's help, put together a game with Lowndes and American Heritage. We're going to have an opening on the schedule next year. I'm just saying, Joe, I would love to see a Lowndes versus St. Thomas Aquinas.
That would be great, Joe. You guys, are you guys traveling? You traveling down?
That's an easy one. No, guys. Coach, Georgia and Texas don't travel. You have to go to them.
Really?
But it's more fun beating them at their home.
Hey,
we just like to show Southern hospitality, Coach. That's all it is.
Hey, it's all good. We'll come to you. We went out to the West Coast and we took care of business. So
you did.
We'll be happy. We'll be happy to come to you. Put you guys on our prayer list. Church game.
Listen.
Yep.
Listen, after Lowndes beats St. Thomas Aquinas, you just have to still promise we'll be friends. Shake my hand after the game. All right.
Hey, man. During the heat of the battle, we do what we have to do, but we're always going to be friends.
That's right. Hey, last question I have for you is, St. Thomas Aquinas, household name, top brand when it comes to football. So there's no need to introduce you even more there. But, being at the top of the mountain comes with its challenges, right? So going into this season, your players know that they have a tradition of great football. So the expectations have to be pretty sky high. As much as you try to keep them grounded, they're still teenagers. The expectations are probably sky high. How do you manage that level of expectations and keep them grounded when they know they're good?
I mean, things are more challenging than ever now, Larry. I mean, it started off with social media and these young impressionable human beings getting a level of attention that becomes emotionally debilitating, and they feel like they need to live up to a certain expectation. And I try to remind them. I say, guys, relax, man. This media circuit, as much of a benefit they are to us from a form of convenience and a voice, they're doing a job. They have a job to do. Don't let these things get to your head. You got to stay humble, and you have to stay hungry, because once you lose that edge, then you're putting yourself and the people that are dependent on you at a tremendous disadvantage. So we practice a couple strategies that help us facilitate managing this type of personality, or this type of mentality that they've been subjected to. It's not their fault. This is what a lot of these teenagers have been born into. So we have to teach them how to lead with love, and how to practice strong interpersonal skills. So what I do in the off season is something called senior leadership, and we take a number of different character traits. It's typically starting with trust and integrity, and we define it. We have them recite it. I'll bring a guest speaker in. I have a number of coaches that are involved with the session with me, so it becomes an academic and educational session. James Walker, who is also an ESPN and an NFL journalist, and I mentioned Mike Kahn, our one of our financial literacy.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right.
That was my sister calling me.
We're good. We're good.
So James Walker does the media information, and Mike talks about the financial aspect of it, because of all the things that are transpiring with regards to branding yourself, and now you're dealing with the NILs. It's not legal in Florida, but how college football can be, especially in certain conferences. So they're gonna entice players, which they have to, because it's just the way of the industry now, in order to attract prominent players. It's a difficult process, but we figure out strategic ways to combat those elements, because they're influential, impressionable creatures, and they just need to know that along with accountability and discipline comes love, and the last thing they want to do is disappoint, so they listen, and they know that we mean well for them. But with all the things that's being thrown at them, and how our society kind of expedites everything now, it's somewhat tough. But we manage well, and we also have a great tradition and reputation to hold them accountable with it as well. So we're blessed and fortunate.
Absolutely. Joe, you got anything else for the coach?
No, we're good to go. Like we talked about, what an honor it's been to have him here. We now know, Coach, I mean, we know what a great tradition the team has, going back to George, Coach Smith. We know now why they hired you and why you're doing so well. Now we know why you're perennial. You're a top 5 to 20 team every year, a top 1 to 5 team every year in your own state. And you're being this successful with having a great competition right around you. I mean, I was in Fort Lauderdale a few months ago, and in like a half an hour, I drove to your school, Chaminade, Madonna, Heritage, and Gibbons. They're also close together, and the fact that all 4 teams do so well, it's a testament to what you talked about before, how football is life in South Florida, and I'm confident in saying that the best is yet to come for you and yours.
No, I appreciate it. Like I said, we try to treat our guys like human. We try to practice the golden rule: treat others how you want to be treated. I think we've done a great job of really facilitating more of a therapeutic type of environment. We don't belittle our guys or make them feel inferior. We're constantly empowering them and picking them up. We know that our words have true meaning, so we don't use cuss words at them. We don't confuse them. Doesn't mean that we're not aggressive or intense with them. We still are, but we articulate the right message and use the appropriate vernacular to communicate. And I think ultimately they appreciate that, especially in a society that is more sensitive with regards to various anti-abuse campaigns and so forth. So we just gotta make sure we're doing right by these young men to ensure they become the future leaders for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, it has been a pleasure to have you on the program tonight. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, please follow us on our national website, nationalhsfb.com. Again, we want to thank Coach Roger Harriott, head coach for St. Thomas Aquinas, for joining us tonight. We'll catch you guys next time. And, Coach, best of luck on this season.
Thank you, guys. Larry, Joe, you guys are great. All the best to you. All the prayers to you and your family. God bless.
I'll see you down in South Florida at your St. Joe's prep game.
Have a good night. And, Coach, we'll see you in Valdosta, Lowndes County next year.
See you there.
Have a good night.
You too.